All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back. In 2 months, Starfield will be officially go for launch. And if it's anything like what we saw during the Starfield Direct, we are going to be eating good in September. Now, there's no doubt that it's going to be a massive game, but what if I told you that Starfield just got a lot bigger? Well, lucky for you, a ton of huge details and secrets have been revealed, from a brand new leaked gameplay screenshot to how in-game system exploration and interstellar travel will work. Along with that, we're going to explore the various mysteries surrounding Starfield, like what happened to Earth and whether or not Starfield will have advanced intelligent life. Check the video chapters to optimize your experience, strap in, and let's get started. Since we're about 2 months until the global launch of Starfield, there's going to be a ton of leaks, fake leaks, outlandish rumors, and just all of the above. I don't think it's time to go dark just yet, but get ready because I'm sure story spoilers will be out there eventually. Now, recently we got our first gameplay screenshot that leaked, and according to other creators, this is a part of a greater gameplay video floating around. I personally don't have it in my possession, but it makes sense that something is out there, especially since there is a ton of QA testers out there playing and making sure Starfield is ready for launch. Now, if we take a look at the leaked screenshot, we could see a few interesting details. For instance, Starfield will have a space AK. Now, this isn't our first time seeing an AK in official screenshots and videos, so that's not really groundbreaking, but what it does is it further adds credence to the screenshot's legitimacy. The weapon looks like it's in the series of Kalashnikov rifles. It's hard to pin down what type it is exactly. It looks more like an AK-100, but for now, we're just going to call it a space AK. Now, at the bottom right, it shows the rifle with 30 rounds in the mag and 244 in the reserve. If we take a look at the minimap on the very left side, the player is on the planet Jemison, and at the bottom right of the minimap behind the player is the capital city of the United Colonies, New Atlantis. There's about 5 other icons on the minimap, which I'm assuming are quest objectives, as well as various landmarks and resources the player previously scanned. If we take a look at the top of the screen, it says fast travel directly from the missions menu, and you could do so by pressing tab, which is a cool tooltip. Hopefully we'll be able to toggle those off and on in the settings. Now, if you take a look at the character on the ground, that is a United Colonies security guard. And then if you take a look at what's in the inventory, there is 33 7.77 millimeter caseless rounds, which are the same rounds found in the Eon pistol and the Grendel PDW. Another thing we could point out is the fact that the UC Security's armor doesn't seem to be lootable at this time. So maybe the screenshots from an earlier build of the game, or perhaps lootable armor is all random. Maybe there's going to be a perk or something that increases the rate at which armor loot drops. It's really just hard saying, but I hope it's not a situation where everything is random, but only time will tell. The next thing that we could point out is the rare weapon drop, which is the Grendel PDW. You can see the attributes of the weapon. It has 30 physical damage, 30 energy, 34 electromagnetic, and it causes 10 thermal status effects and 20 radiation. The O2 filter also has a minus 25% oxygen consumption. Now, the Grendel PDW has a value of 935, which seems normal at first glance, but it actually confirms something about the overall game economy. In previous Bethesda games, the amount of money vendors could have on hand was on the lower end of things, but with Starfield, it seems like the economy was buffed up, because if you can sell a rare item for 953 credits, as well as this spacesuit for 20,000 credits, imagine how much money some of the vendors will have. We know the end game will require a ton of credits with outpost building and ship customization, so it seems gone are the days of having to fast travel to multiple vendors just to be able to sell everything that you need to sell. This brings us to the second leaked screenshot, which shows a loading screen with the character name Dustin in the bottom left, as well as level 2. Now, there's a hint below the player's name that says the targeting skill increases accuracy and range when firing from the hip. So nothing too crazy about these two screenshots, but Godspeed to whoever Dustin is. As you know, there are a lot of questions left unanswered for Starfield. For instance, can you explore interstellar space? Will there be advanced intelligent life? Which I'll be going over my theories about that in just a bit, but for now, I'd like to go over some new details we recently learned, like how in-system exploration and landing on planets will work. According to a recent discovery, when you approach a planet, you could fly around the planet and then choose your destination to land. If you take a look at this screenshot by Reddit user Vin Kitsune, you could see that New Atlantis is visible on the screen, but before the screenshot happened, it was not visible. As the player approached the planet Jemison, the city of New Atlantis appeared. They said this tells me that we will likely be able to freely travel in a star system instead of having to get up from the flight controls and go over to the star map to select our destination. And rather, as you explore a new planet or one you've been to, once you get close enough, it will show various landing spots. Now, I kind of figured we'd be able to freely explore a star system. It was kind of obvious, but this does have implications for interstellar space travel. My hope is that while you're flying around a planet, you could set a waypoint or a ping to where you want to land, and that will initiate the landing sequence. This brings us to our next discovery, which is planets will be accurately scaled to real life. One of the concerns we've seen with Starfield is that some planets look scaled to give the perception that they are larger than they actually are. According to Reddit user Nimbulin, this is not the case. In the post, they said this, and I quote, "We actually have some evidence of this. According to NASA, NASA's handy solar system simulator tool, it could show us exactly how large Jupiter should appear from the surface of Io. To compare it to this screenshot of the same view of the Starfield Direct, they said my simulator image is set to 90-degree FOV, while the game footage should be somewhat lower. Exact value is unknown currently, making Jupiter appear slightly larger in proportion. So if we compare the two images, we can see that the sizes match up pretty well. This tells us that the scale of the planets are going to be massive. It's hard to say whether or not we'll be able to freely explore each planet in its entirety, as I'm sure that there's going to be some zones that aren't explorable, like massive oceans, deep crevices that are death traps, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not fully convinced about the scale of the planets, but if they are indeed similar to how they are in real life, this kind of changes everything for me. Starfield really could be bigger than anything we all imagined, but it's best to keep all of our expectations in check. I doubt every planet will be gigantic. Now, since we were on the topic of Jupiter, this kind of raises an important question that I have about exploring gas giants. With a planet like Jupiter being full of hydrogen and helium, with a core that is just unknown, it's unclear to NASA if Jupiter has a solid core or if it's a thick, dense soup of stuff that is 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the thought of being able to explore a planet like that seems just crazy. Maybe we can send an instrument or a drone, maybe Vasco, down there to explore the planets, but it's hard saying. Maybe our spacesuit can withstand the pressure and heat, but I highly doubt that. Maybe there's going to be some gas giants that are explorable and then others that aren't, which would lower the overall number of explorable planets, but only time will tell. Starfield has a ton of mysteries, especially surrounding how space exploration will work. We know for certain that in-system exploration will be possible, like we talked about earlier, but what about interstellar exploration? Will we be able to explore interstellar space as well as have autopilot to freely explore interstellar space, or are we limited to just jumping between star systems? It seems like an obvious yes, but without official clarification, it's hard to say so. I would love to be able to use my ship's gravity drive and randomly stop whenever I want. Let my ship fly throughout the vastness of space, walk around my ship, talk to my crew members, sort through my inventory, and plan my next voyage. This brings us to our next bit of information, and that is Starfield will have an autopilot feature, and you can even assign someone from your crew to pilot your ship. Now, if you take a look at this part of the Starfield Direct, it looks like various crew members will have a skill called piloting, which straight up just confirms autopilot feature. As we know right now, Sam Coe will be able to pilot your ship, and I'm sure Vasco will as well, so we will likely have to get to a point in the story before we're able to use the autopilot feature. This is an aspect I'm really looking forward to in the game. Not only are we going to have to customize our ship and outpost, but we also have to make connections and assign crew members for upkeep and do tasks. It's all really exciting stuff, and I can't wait. Next up, I'd like to talk about Starfield's story, setting, what exactly happened to Earth, and what impact factions have on the story, and whether or not we will find advanced intelligent life in the game, as we have some comments made by Todd that leads me to believe my theory about aliens might be right. If you take a look at this screenshot of the Sol system, which is our solar system, you can see a desolate planet that is Earth. Now, if you remember from the Starfield Direct and various other trailers, we know what the landscape and atmosphere of Earth looks like. We have a shot of the St. Louis Arch, the NASA launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, but what happened to Earth? Like, what went down? Was it a situation like in the movie Interstellar, where the planet was destroyed by some sort of blight, or essentially just a global agricultural disease? Or was it something more along the lines of a fallout from a nuclear war, or possibly even an asteroid hitting Earth? Now, we know the game starts in the Sol system on Mars, in the city of Cydonia at the big mining facility, so I'm guessing we're going to learn relatively quickly what happened to our home planet. Moving on to one of the central aspects of every good BGS game are the factions. Now, one question I've seen raised quite a bit is whether or not we will be locked into joining one faction, or if we can join multiple. According to Will Shin, the lead quest designer, the early goal with Starfield was they wanted each faction quest line to be independent, and the player will experience each faction as a part of the main quest line. The main quest will kind of give us a tour of the various factions and the main characters, but their goal with this game is to make the story be more personal and influence the directions that the factions go, rather than forcing you to choose your allegiances. However, your choices can have far-reaching consequences for what that faction is and what it cares about, so definitely keep that in mind during your playthroughs. One of my favorite things to think about with Starfield is where the story is going to take us. There's been a ton of hints and implications of the story involving aliens, or at least some sort of advanced intelligent life in some way or another. I mean, take this screenshot at the end of the Starfield trailer. It looks like an alien, possibly an advanced intelligent alien. Now, it could be a tamed creature on the character's backpack or something like that, or possibly even Doc Ock arms, but I am leaning towards an intelligent alien. During a podcast with Lex Friedman, Todd Howard was asked about life on other planets, and he said this, and I quote, "It's almost a dream of mine, like in our lifetime that we discover life on another planet." Lex jumps in by saying, especially if it's intelligent life, "I imagine there's life everywhere," to which Todd says the numbers would say so, yes. If humanity discovering intelligent life on another planet is a dream of Todd Howard, Howard's, he has the perfect opportunity of at least somewhat fulfilling that dream with the story of Starfield. While I am super excited for Starfield, there are some concerns about the game. It's no doubt that Starfield will have various bugs and glitches, and honestly, it wouldn't be a BGS game if it didn't. According to Todd Howard, Starfield has been playtesting well, and it will have fewer bugs than their previous games, which sounds good, but once millions of people get their hands on the game, there are bound to be some problems. As long as there aren't game-breaking glitches that ruin immersion coupled with constant crashes, it should be okay. I'll personally be installing the unofficial Starfield patch as soon as it releases, which usually works out most of the Bethesda jank, but it's best to err on the side of caution. Another concern that I have is the overall gameplay loop of Starfield. How much of the game will lean on the exploration and resource side of things over the story and faction quests? I'm hoping there's going to be a good mix of both, but with Starfield's main quest only being about 30 to 40 hours long, that means if you're like me and sink hundreds of hours on BGS games, the majority of our time on the game will be exploring the galaxy, surveying planets, building our outpost to auto resource farm with the end goal of customizing our dream ship and maxing out our character. Let's hope the main quest is fulfilling, because the end game seems to shift focus from being a sci-fi epic to being a Minecraft or No Man's Sky style game, which, don't get me wrong, I do love that aspect. I just hope the systems in place are addictive enough to want to replay, just like how awesome it is to start a new world on Minecraft and building yourself up. But one of the reasons it works on Minecraft, and No Man's Sky for that matter, is the multiplayer, which Starfield of course won't have. That's gonna wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you've enjoyed my coverage of Starfield, do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on. Thanks again for watching. This has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.